I move the motion tabled in my name this afternoon. I'd like to put on record my thanks to all members who supported this debate, and particularly to Angela Burns, who will be closing the debate this afternoon. Cancer Research UK have identified that 1 in 2 people in the UK born after 1960 will be diagnosed with some form of cancer in their lifetime. Presently, around 19,000 people are diagnosed with cancer every year in Wales. We all know someone who has received a cancer diagnosis. Some will be cancer survivors, but others are sadly no longer with us, having battled cancer with strength and dignity. Over recent years, we have seen meaningful progress in diagnosis, treatment and survival rates, with just over half of people with a cancer diagnosis living for 10 years or more, compared to 1 in 4 in 1970. However, Wales persistently lagged behind comparable countries for cancer survival. There is a direct correlation between the chances of survival and the stages of diagnosis across both year 1 and 5-year survival rates. Cancer survival decreases when an early diagnosis is not available. And that's something we remember. Cancer survival decreases when we do not have early diagnosis. In Wales, we have seen one-year survival rates increase, along with 5-year survival rates. It is clear that early diagnosis is fundamental. This becomes ever more present when we look at harder to diagnose cancers, such as lung cancer or pancreatic cancer. Cancers like these have little to no stage 1 symptoms, or symptoms that are non-specific. It is therefore important that any strategy for cancer treatment must include a strong emphasis on early diagnosis. Now, at the end of this year, the Welsh Government's Cancer Delivery Plan, which was published in the 4th Assembly, comes to an end. Now, the World Health Organization recommends that every country should have a cancer strategy, no matter what resource constraint it faces. As the current plan comes to an end, we need to ensure that Wales has a new, fit-for-purpose in a changing world, comprehensive cancer strategy, which will be in place when this current delivery plan ceases at the end of this year. A new comprehensive cancer strategy which meets patient need and, most importantly, improves patient outcomes. Many of the cancer charities which I speak to on a regular basis feel that this is an opportunity for the Welsh Government and for this Senedd to set a new vision to improve patient outcomes, covering prevention, early diagnosis, access to treatment and cancer research which benefits patients. And they and I believe that the new cancer strategy must be underpinned by increasing diagnostic capacity for faster diagnosis and treatment to improve patient outcomes. At this point, I want to praise the Rapid Diagnostic Centre at East Hospital. It's a great example of how to use diagnostics at an early stage, and it's working well. With patients being referred by GPs upon suspicion of a possible cancerous condition when a red flag is raised through non-specific symptoms. Now, I visited the centre last week to see the fantastic work the team actually are doing in diagnosing cancers at an early stage. But it does 2 jobs. It can, whilst it also diagnoses cancer at early stages, it can also reassure those who do not have cancer at an early stage as well. And we have seen a reduction for that team from an average wait of 84 days to an average wait of 6 days. What a dramatic change. And it's a primary-led function. Now, as the motion states, early diagnosis is key to improving cancer survival rates. And we know that there are certain cancers which are more difficult to diagnose. We mentioned them already. Ovarian, pancreatic are just 2 examples of these, diagnosed at a later stage. For the 8 most common cancer types combined, survival is more than 3 times higher for those that are diagnosed at an early stage compared to a late stage diagnosis. Diagnosing people at the earliest stage is critical to giving patients the best chance of survival. One of the major factors behind how likely someone is to survive lung cancer, for example, is how early they are diagnosed. I will.
Thanks for giving way. You mentioned that some cancers are harder to diagnose than others, and it's reminded me of a constituent case that Angela Burns, our health spokesperson, has been involved as well with me. You know, the constituent that we saw. His wife sadly died of ovarian cancer. I don't think it was diagnosed until stage 4. Certain cancers, like ovarian cancer, are incredibly difficult to diagnose because they masquerade as other conditions quite early on, whatever those might be. So, would you say it's part of your delighted you're bringing this debate forward. Part of this means that the Welsh Government does need to look at some of those cancers which are harder to diagnose, and maybe look at some of the evidence out there that there are particularly algorithms, for instance, that my constituent was looking at with an expert in Cardiff University that can make that diagnosis process a lot easier so that you can get to these cancers a lot earlier.
I fully agree with Nick. Ovarian cancer has been an example of where it is difficult, and very often we find patients with ovarian cancer diagnosed at stage 4. Friends of ours was similarly in that position. Unfortunately, she passed away. It is a situation where we have to address how do we tackle the hard-to-find cancers. And I will highlight one example, I was just about to highlight one example of such a hard-to-find cancer, but it is important we put an emphasis on that as well, to ensure that we look at new innovative measurement and techniques that will do that. I'll give one example, because one of the major factors is talking about lung cancer. 27% of lung cancer diagnoses are made at the earliest opportunity. 27%, so that's 3/4 aren't. Which means that 3/4 are diagnosed at stage 3 or 4. Now, the publication actually, only this year, January 2020, what is known as the Nelson study, and a study undertaken by Netherlands and Belgian researchers, confirmed that the evidence to supported targeted lung cancer screening can actually help identify them sooner. Now, it's new, it's a pilot scheme which has been operated, but perhaps we in Wales could take on such new innovative schemes, such as this, where there has been research which has shown that actually this is an approach which can work, and the approach is actually by early screening with CT scanning. And that is one of the ways in which you can suggest better. We used to do it by X-rays per se, but now CT scanning can actually do it better. Could we look at a pilot approach in that example and take it on as Wales and be leading the sort of tackling the situation, be leading in the UK, be leading in Europe, to look at how we can use innovative techniques, modern technology, to actually help us do that early diagnosis. And I'm sure we'll find similar areas where there will be ovarian, pancreatic, another one which is very late diagnosis as well. So, since the introduction of the Cancer Delivery Plan, the Welsh Government announced in 2018 its decision to implement a single cancer pathway, which came into operation in June last year. Now, as a result, every Welsh Health Board is now developing a plan to ensure that the majority of their patients, from the very first point where cancer might be suspected, receive cancer diagnostic tests and start their treatment within 62 days. Equally, for those patients who do not have cancer, they will be reassured promptly, reducing unnecessary stress and worry for those individuals and their families. The single cancer pathway is the culmination of more than 3 years of work to change how health boards identify and report cancers and to improve patient cancer experiences. For the first time, health boards record how long patients wait from the point cancer is first suspected, regardless of the way they enter the healthcare system. The next cancer strategy must build on this, to identify areas of improvement under the single cancer pathway, to diagnose and treat as many patients as early as possible. So we have started, but we need to do more. Additionally, we need to ensure that the screening uptake is improving. Now, cervical cancer is clearly one which we often talk about, or maybe not in this case, we should do more. But when the Jane Goody effect took place, we saw a surge in screening requirements following her death. Unfortunately, that's now waned, despite the tremendous work of cancer charities such as Joe's Cervical Cancer Trust. And we must ensure these vital tests are taken by all those who are eligible. Cervical cancer screening every 5 years has led to a 70% reduction in deaths from cancer. So we need more to undertake and get screening accepted by wider people. Now, we often talk in this chamber about bowel cancer screening and the low take-up on that, and the high take-up on breast cancer screening. We need to press this, and the strategy needs to address this far more. But we can do more by moving with the times and using technological advancements to the benefit of patients, ensuring that all have access to the most up-to-date, most accurate tests to ensure that those who are affected by cancer are treated swiftly and in the best manner for their diagnosis. Deputy Clywedd, I watch my time and I'll make sure Angela has sufficient time to respond. So I'll close earlier than I would have, but I want to close by reminding members of the fantastic workforce we have in the NHS here in Wales. A workforce that works tirelessly to ensure that all patients have the best experience no matter what their diagnosis. But we must recognise the pressures they're under. And one of the things we often heard in previous questions on the current cancer delivery plan was identifying the key worker in this whole thing, because that key worker is crucial to the patient and to the outcomes for that patient. And again, we must support both the patient and the workforce, because they support the patient, and we must support the patient both doing diagnosis, doing treatment, and after treatment. Let's not forget when they survive as well. I look forward to the contributions this afternoon to play with. And diolch yn fawr iawn. And I hope members will support this motion.
Thank you.